Hello, it's Alina Gigi from Love Magic Miracles, and I have a very special guest for you today. I have Miranda Marriott. Miranda is an intuitive business coach who is on a mission to empower women to turn themselves into gold so that they can actually create more freedom and ease and abundance in their lives. So, welcome aboard, Miranda.
Thanks, hon. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, same. I've loved our messages back and forth and just tuning in intuitively to the questions. That's totally my vibe. So thank you for already starting this wonderful co-creation with me today.
Yeah, it's great. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So often I don't start with people's origin story, but I kind of feel like in your case, it's just a powerful, clear starting point, like when I've been listening to other podcasts, like with Regan, how you went from, single mom, broke, nearly homeless to multiple six-figure months in under 4 years. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So should we just start there and just honor that origin story and then see how it all evolves from that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's, really powerful and important to remember where we've come from because, and the contrast, because all of us as well, like all of our origin stories, because we can always be on to the next thing and what else we're creating and we can forget how far we've come and so, yeah, and there's so many lessons that it brings up. But I guess for me, for 33 years of my life, I was a struggler and a battler and an Aussie battler, and someone who tried every single thing I possibly could to create a life I wanted and to get away from the things I feared. But that whole life, all I ended up doing, it seemed like the further I tried, the faster I try to go, the harder I try, like the deeper. And I was talking to my client today about quicksand. It felt like it was like the more I moved, the more I learned, the more I tried, the deeper into my shit I got, and the more nightmares I created. It was like the opposite was happening, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I guess the pinnacle of it, there was two pinnacles of the difficulty I got myself into. One of them was when I was just turning 30 years old and I had tried all my might to create a relationship that would mean that I would have someone committed to me, choose me, not abandon me, not divorce me, not cheat on me, like I did everything I physically possibly could to create and draw in someone I thought who was going to stay and commit, because that's all I was afraid about. And that's all I really wanted. And yeah, when I was 30 years old, 6 months pregnant, I was about to start my business in coaching I'd wanted to do since I was 16 years old. Thought, oh, I finally got a good job and I'm about to start my business and I'm going to be this big motivational speaker and everyone's going to listen to me and go, wow, how amazing is Miranda? She's battled and tried hard and she's willpowered her way into getting what she wants. And I was having my baby and I had 10 years in my relationship. And I was like, oh, finally, maybe I've figured out psychology, figured out the way the world works. I'm creating what I want. Awesome. And then all thinking that, just about to hit this sort of peak of my life, a month later, my husband and I, he just changes dramatically. And I end up finding out that he's cheating and then he can't face it, we can't face it, and we break up, and all these things I pinned my worth on and thought I'd done all this hard work to create came smashing to smithereens. I was on mat leave, didn't have any money, didn't have my husband of 10 years anymore, was starting to be a single mom before I was even a mom. Like it was just like everything and my body was the worst that it ever looked, all these things I used to put my worth on and my evaluation of my worth on just crashed. So I became depressed and I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. And again, the same part at the core was that I'm powerless and it doesn't matter how much I studied psychology for 8 years. I tried so hard to get away from that reality and ended up just creating it, and experiencing it.
So why do you think you created that? Was it your subconscious controlling the show?
Well, basically, and this is the same thing like 3, 4 years later, I created that experience of all this hard work with my business and then still spinning to nothing where I got into $20,000 of debt, nearly became homeless, like you just said before. The same thing created both of them. And basically, my belief and orientation was that I was broken and I needed to be fixed. And I needed to do all this personal development and all this psychology and to fix myself. But if the premise and orientation of my whole life is that I'm broken, I need to be fixed, and it's just going to create more problems. I'm going to be more broken. There's going to be more, to be fixed.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter how hard I tried. I'm in quicksand. I'm moving faster. I'm going deeper into it, right? I've got to just not be in the quicksand and go and put myself somewhere else, because our imagination and our way, our consciousness is whatever the energy goes into is what it's creating. And so I was trying really hard to be like, I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to be left. I want to have love. And so I'm going to go and do all this stuff. But at the end of the day, my energy was in, I don't want to be abandoned. And the fear. And it didn't matter what I was doing. My focus was on the fear. And so I created the fear, Same with money. I didn't want to get into debt. I didn't want to be this homeless single mom. I didn't want to be in the below the poverty line, like a single mom, But that was my preoccupation. That was my fear. And so it didn't matter how much I did, I always just ended up creating that, because at the end of the day, everything I did was from that motivation. And when we're manifesting, your subconscious doesn't go, hang on, what are you focusing on? Oh, you're focusing on money. Let's create money. Just going, hang on, why are you focusing on money? What's the motivation there? What's your orientation? Oh, you have no money. Okay, you have no money. So it's always about why we're focusing on what we are, not so much about what. And that's why people can do all these affirmations and do all this stuff and get nowhere. And they're really upset because they're like, but I'm trying really hard. It's like, well, where are you coming from? What's the motivation? Is it fear or love? Because that's going to determine what's created,
Great. So it's the frequency. It's everything's energy. It's getting on the right vibration to magnetize to you what you want to create more of.
It is. And, I guess as well, ultimately, my identity was that I'm broken, I'm worthless, I'm not enough. All this ego unconscious was really who I thought I was. And I thought I had to go do all this stuff to fix that. But ultimately, deep down, I just thought I was a worthless. So I'm going to be abandoned. I'm worthless. I'm not going to get money. And I can't, I'm powerless. I can't create. That's who I thought I was. Like my unconscious and my ego was who I thought I was. That's the definition I had. And so my reality was always showing evidence of that, And when I uncovered at 33 years old, right that month that I got into $20,000 of debt and I was about to become, literally lose my house and didn't know where I was going to live, didn't have family that could house me. Like I was probably a month or two off that, I uncovered the superconscious. And the superconscious, basically, there's a lot I could talk to you about, but the main premise of what changed for me is that I understood that I'm not my identity. I'm not this belief I have about myself. I'm a superconscious force, this energetic being who, if I go back to my life before I was born, and I'm just this energy in the universe and I'm connected to the co-creation of the universe, like we've all got gold. We've actually got gold dust in our being, We actually have all these incredible stardust like in our DNA as well, right? Like if I connect that's my true identity. I am this powerful force, like all of us are. That's what I started to see myself as. I'm a part of God, I am like a God, and everyone is. Humans are a miracle of life. And that's when I started seeing that as who I was, and I started knowing that my imagination is what creates it. So if I imagine my shit, I create that. If I imagine great things, I create that. I just shifted it in 1 month. I'd never done much energy work before, shifted it. I had a 20K month. And then I just never went back ever again. It was just like, I put energy into this old thing, created all these nightmares. I put energy to the new thing, created my dreams. Like it was just that. It was like literally a seesaw of just switch that I just changed, and it just then changed everything,
Okay, so let's unpack that. So the decision or the switch, is it one new belief, one new decision that you go, I'm never going back into that scarcity thinking? Or because you talk about certainty and making decisions, what is it? What is that belief that really shifted it for you?
We can't ever not have scarcity and fear, because we have two beings in us. We are our ego and our unconscious, and we have a superconscious. And you cannot get rid of your ego and your unconscious. You can't get rid of your identity. I've not got rid of scarcity in my life. I haven't got rid of worthlessness, powerlessness. Like I still every day get triggered by that and think that and feel that. It's just how much time and energy do I put into that? And how much time and energy do I put into like my power and my superconscious and my actual truth of who I am, So it wasn't I got rid of it and then I never had it again. And I say this to my clients all the time. I have 200K months, whatever, and make, all this money. I still have scarcity in my body. And it's still as much as when I got into that debt. Like it's not about numbers or anything. It's not about the external world at all. It's our internal reality, right? So it's not about getting rid of it. It's not about getting rid of beliefs. It's not about getting rid of feelings, none of that, and I used to, in that journey of that 4 years, and I was spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix myself and I remember like going into these emotional breakthrough things that I would do, and I meant to not feel guilt anymore after that. I'm meant to not feel powerless anymore. And then the next month I would, and I'd be like, oh, I'm screwed. I can't fix myself. Like, you don't need to. I'm constantly in fear. I'm constantly in worthlessness, powerlessness. Like, that's not what matters. Like, that's not going anywhere. Your unconscious isn't going anywhere. It needs to keep you safe and protect you. So it needs to constantly be in fear and get you preoccupied with that. And that's a part of your psychology. It's in your brain. You can't, if you cut it out, you can't function. We can't make decisions. So it's there. It's been embedded. That doesn't have to happen. You just need to be aware of it. You need to see and be aware that you're feeling this, you're fearing this. You bring awareness and attention to it. I call it like a truth check, truth reality check, current reality check. Like, you do it into a truth circle of yourself. Like, I'm constantly just checking in on that for myself, being aware of what my ego is worried about, what's in there, what the belief is, whatever. I just bring awareness and love to it. And then I just go back into, but this is who I really am. And this is what I want. And I just go back into my superconscious and like, this is who I am. And I move from that. And then I get triggered again and I go back into my fear. And then I go back into my superconscious like that. I'm just constantly sort of pivoting through the day,
Right. Yeah.
And it's not about, I've got to excavate that belief. Your unconscious isn't going anywhere. Beliefs aren't going anywhere. I've tried for a long time. Clients have, right? But I use this analogy, like if you were stung by a scorpion when you were a kid, your mind is not going to go, oh, scorpions are fine. I'm going to do some hypnotherapy and like scorpions are safe. Like go touch them. That's all good. Like it's going to keep you alive to remember scorpions are not to be touched. You nearly died last time. Don't do that again. Like your unconscious is there for a reason. It's protect you, keep you safe. And it's all good. We don't have to get rid of that. It's actually a great part of being a human. Keeps us safe, in a lot of ways. But we can't let it dictate our life and be the driver of our life, because it will keep us safe and not take risks and not go and create what we want to create. It will constantly be holding us back. So we just got to be aware of it, see it, and then go back to what we really want, what we really love, our superconscious power. That's what I would say.
Thank
And
you.
that's what made the difference for me, like from the before and after point, like that's what started to make all the difference.
Yeah, like awareness sometimes, do you feel like that's almost halfway there because it just allows for the change to shift? We bring the awareness to it and then it can shift rather than trying to force or change or control. We just accept it. Well, I always think of like accept what we can't change and then change what we can and then have the wisdom to know the difference between the two. I feel like you've sort of explained that, and
Yeah.
it's, every time you hear it said in different ways, like you just unpacked for me, it's like cool. So and it's a reminder. Oh, I'm not broken. I'm not lacking in any way. It's just I'm not fully tapped into my power in this moment if I'm thinking these thoughts and feeling this way. So what different aligned action can I take, or what different belief about myself identity wise? Because I mean, how do we reshape our identity? It's not adding anything on, is it? It's allowing things to drop away. And if we're coming back to the center of who we are, we're actually remembering, like you said, we are love, we are oneness. Like it's sort of like tuning deeper, isn't it? Dropping into ourselves.
Well, I think it's really about knowing that we have two identities. One's real and true and really who we are. It's our true definition. And the other one's one we made up as a kid because we had no other way to understand life. And a 4-year-old made the decision that it's not worthy, or 4-year-old made the decision that mum and dad do this because and that means I'm not powerful and the gods are in, control or whatever. Like a 4-year-old brain made all these decisions because it's just did the best it could at the time to figure out what was going on in life and who we are and who others are and who the world is and God is and how it all works here. Like your brain's trying to work all that out. And then it made that impression and imprinting of this is who I am, this is how the world works. And then we mostly automatically just follow on our whole life, creating the same stuff over and over again because that's our blueprint, And that's our identity that's not true. It's not real. It's not actually who we are. It's just what our 4-year-old tried to figure out was the best to do,
Mm.
Then we have our actual identity, which is our real powerful self, our limitless self, our God self, And to me, we create nightmares or what we don't want, or we create dreams of what we do want based on which identity we're operating in, which one we give more power to, which one has more energy. I don't know if you've heard about that analogy of the black and white wolf, in the American Indian tradition, but there were talking about, you know, if you feed the black wolf, like in the shadow, I guess more so, or like it will grow. And then if you feed the white, you know, and your power, like it will grow. It's like, which one are you feeding, you know?
Mm.
And I think
Totally.
awareness is one part of it. Awareness, just knowing this is what I believe, this is how I feel, this is my trigger, this is my pattern. Like that's a massive part. I think another part as well, though, is there is an embodiment as well. Like sometimes awareness is powerful enough for me to move on and go back into my power. But if you're really triggered and it's really hitting a nerve for you that was a childhood thing, or you can't just go, oh, I'm aware now and robot, yeah, cool, let's go back. Let's think, you actually probably need to release a little bit of emotion. Like same with my son, right? He's 7. Sometimes, you know, he'll be upset or something, and I can just talk to him in an awareness way and he'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. And he'll move on. But other times he's really upset, and me just saying something isn't going to help him. He's got to really cry, let it out, feel it, release some energy, and then he'll be open to talk and hear the logical thing. So when you say awareness is like, yeah, awareness is huge, but sometimes we need to do some deeper work with it as well, you know?
Mm. Mm. Agreed. And move the energy, maybe even like through walking, or just, yeah, go for a walk, because then we're changing our physical state and our physiology, and our mental connection is all intertwined. So if we start moving our bodies, I think Tony Robbins speaks about that a lot. You know, you change your physiology, you change your beliefs, and you change your energy. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess for me, you know, walking all those it's Tony Robbins type, you know, I mean, I call it more action, I guess. Like they can be really beneficial, but again, it's about where it's coming from. Because if we're doing that to distract and deny from emotion, or, you know,
Mm.
same with my son, right? It's like him having a tantrum, upset, really upset. If I just go, all right, stop it, you know, like let's do this, or like
Mm.
that might not be honoring if he actually just needs me to sit there and let him feel, you know? But other times I need to distract him and just like have fun. And that is helpful. Like that is the
Mm.
loving thing to do, you know?
Mm.
And I guess people want to know, like, how do I deal with the emotion? Or how do I, it's like every moment you actually need to do a different thing, you know, because sometimes it's loving for you to just snap out of it and go do the masterclass anyway. And sometimes, no, you've got to actually sit in that emotion and say no, or, and your intuition will always guide that. But yeah, like sometimes it's moving the energy by action and walking. But then other times I'll move the energy by just sitting in the emotion and sobbing and moving emotionally through like a dance. Like, and that's what I need. And other times I need to just tap into my superconscious, go, that's BS, this is who I am, and move. Like, it's like, you know, there's no one way.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to know the way, but it's like you need to be guided by your intuition, you know, because
Yeah.
it always knows what you need. It's your medicine, it's your guide, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, feeling is important. Thank you for acknowledging that. And I guess on my journey, what I've learned to do is to feel without it always attaching story to it as well. So feel and then release. And it's like,
Yeah.
and if story starts to come in, or if I'm going down a rabbit hole, it's like, just see it for what it is. Go, okay, okay. And then, but yeah, feel. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's the thing. Like a lot of the time we get scared of emotion. We think they're going to get us stuck there, or like or it's going to get us really down, or, you know, but it's, if you actually just let an emotion run without the story, without the resistance, without the judgment, like it actually doesn't take long for it to move. And again, you look back at kids, like if you let a kid just cry, like it doesn't, he doesn't or she don't need to cry for ages. Like actually the energy moves quite quickly when you just give it space, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I a lot about, you know, I'll call it negredo, albedo, rubedo, you
What was
know.
that? Sorry, that I think that just cut out. What was that little bit you just said?
In alchemy, we call it negredo, albedo, rubedo. And I guess I call it sort of your shadow, your superconscious, and then and action, or you know, that orientation. And a lot of the time people will get stuck in one way of operating or two, but they'll miss the other one. And that's the key to why they're not manifesting and having magic in their life, is because they may be too into the shadow, too into the emotion, in the swamp land, I call it, and they get stuck there, you know,
Mm.
and they just keep moving through deep dark thing all the time, and then they're not actually connecting to their power and moving on, you know. Other people are in the heights of the spiritual realms and meditating and what, but then they won't actually go and to the depth of their pain, or go take action, and so then they're not actually creating anything either, you know. And others will be in action mode, which I was in for years, and would do all the action, but then it's not coming from any alignment, it's not coming from any awareness of the depth of my fear. So it wouldn't actually go anywhere. And so until we have all the three aligned, we don't manifest what we want, you know?
Wow. Wow.
Mm.
So that's part of the process then, helping women to tap into their inner gold, and then where to from there?
Firstly, like I guess
Yeah.
they're led, like they're, this is alchemy is like lead to gold. You can't create the gold unless you go into the lead and you have the lead. The lead's required. And so first thing is that, we really do tap into like the fears, the depth of your worries, the beliefs, like whatever it is that's holding you back, and bring the awareness and love to that, and feel it if you need, or whatever is required, and then go in, also into like, yeah, but this is who I am. This is the actual real truth. This is what I really love and what I want, and that sort of height of albedo, the power, and your super conscious, and then go into, okay, well, if I'm here and this is the true me and this is what I want, like what's next? What's obvious? Like what's my guidance? What's my next step intuition? And people go, oh, I don't know what to do. It's like, you do. If you actually just stop, you do. And you're just resisting the doing, or like, and most people actually struggle with the rubato, the follow through, the action. Like that's probably where most people struggle, and why the ego actually resists that the most, because that's the last step closest to manifesting what you want, right?
Mm.
So yeah, that's the sort of, if I'm going to do an overview of the process I follow, and take people through. And it actually seems quite simple, but the embodiment of it is difficult, and the ego wants to make it complicated. And people go off, and I did try and learn. I've learned 50 different modalities and programs, and we try and do it all. And it's like, at the end of the day, this is what works, and I just rinse and repeat it and master it more and more, and that's mastering the secret of magic and manifesting the way the universe works. It's mastering the energy of the universe, right? That's what alchemy is.
Wow. Oh, that's very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that in such a clear way that makes me just want to do it right now. And be it and embody it. So with your retreats, do you use a similar process? What other sorts of transformations do your retreat participants experience?
Yeah, so in my retreats, every retreat, there's three a year at the moment, and each retreat has a theme. So I work in the realm of the superconscious, which is some things that I've talked about. And then I work in the realm of what I call the soul, which is more emotional embodiment, feminine ritual work. And then I work more in what I saw the soma, which is like the money, business, practical, human, manifesting part as well. So every retreat I run, so we're going to Machu Picchu in April. That's the soul. So every place I choose is got the theme, as well, a part of it. So that's the soul retreat. And then Fiji in August will be the soma, like the money Lux one. So it's always got a different energy to what I'm teaching based on the work I teach. But we basically, I mean, the whole point of it's called the pilgrimage, because what I'm here for, when I look at my gene keys, my DNA in my being as a coach, like the medicine I bring, it's the spiritual path to abundance, is what I'm here to teach women, and how to tap into their divine feminine power to create abundance with that ease and flow. Like that's, and when I say abundance, it's not just money, it's abundance in life, every desire that you have, feeling it, creating it, knowing how beautiful and abundant you are. So yeah, my retreats are always themed with that, but we go on a journey, and we're actually taking steps and walking, like, and having these different experiences. It's very embodied experience. Like we're, in Machu Picchu, we're going in vision quests, we're doing bathing rituals, where walking a valley and a canyon, and like, it's very symbolic in the journey as well. And I guess I find when I've been on retreats, and the retreats I run, the land itself and the experiences do most of the work. I've transformed. I went to Cambodia recently and just sat in front of this temple I was called to sit in for 3 days, and there was no retreat I was on. There was no one leading anything. I wasn't learning anything. I just literally sat at this tree that I was led to go to. And I had the biggest breakthrough, like relationally and in my heart, with love, and this massive download, and sort of God spoke to me towards the end of sitting there, right? And yeah, it was just the land teaching me, and the trees speaking to me, like, and so I just don't think people let like land in its own medicine frequency. I mean, Machu Picchu, Lake Titicaca is the sacral center of the earth, you know, and it has its own medicine. I was in Africa and it had its own medicine. I've been in Egypt, and you know, everywhere I've been, it's got its own frequency of the actual lands that it wants to speak to us. So a lot of my retreats is honoring the space and the energy of that special place, and what it wants to teach us, you know. And I just work, I guess, shamanically, or just work with the land to help facilitate a few experiences that bring that unlocking for them and help them open to that.
Oh my
So
gosh. Wow.
yeah.
That's so powerful. I was going to call this podcast Conversations with Trees at one point. So I feel you when I'm in nature and I'm like sitting with a tree, I can feel its energy. If I listen, I can hear the wisdom of the tree. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's for real.
Every living, you know, every even rocks, like everything in the earth, like in the universe, has its own message frequency. It's got its own vibration. And if we tune into that, like, and I teach like in my superconscious intuitive work, like how to actually tune into the land and receive guidance from the land, and how to shapeshift into these things as well, and to receive. And it's just all these different intuitive tools that we use to commune with nature and receive, you know. And, you know, in Egypt and in Machu Picchu and all these sacred places I take people to, they have such limitless technology and resources and these phenomenal feats that they've created that we have no idea, and we cannot co-create right now and replicate the way they built Machu Picchu and the Great Pyramid. Like, we don't have the technology and resort to actually replicate it, you know. Like, they don't know how they did it, and they don't know how they cut the stones the way they did, and how it's earthquake proof and all the things, like, and also how they're also, there's all these places around the world that are interconnected, and they think they're the same people who built Machu Picchu, who built Egypt, and, you know, built the pyramid. And it's like, how on earth did it happen? You know, around whatever BC it was. I mean, they have speculations on when it was, but they had this unlimited, like limitless technology and resources that we don't have anymore. We've lost, and we're meant to be so advanced, you know. And it's like, because they were so connected to the land and the earth and the universe, and like they received all this guidance that we don't even access it because we're cut off from it, is my opinion, you know. And so if I just drop my busyness and go, and like, retreats are a lifeblood for me. They reorient me. Everyone I've been on, I've completely come back, completely transformed, you know. And that's why I guess I love running them, because I love coaching, but doing the travel and the sacred journey with it, it's just like, I can't replicate that power anywhere, you know.
Mm.
So yeah.
Oh, so juicy. Oh my gosh. Wow. So I mean, yeah, that's where it's at, right? And nature. And I guess we do get a bit shut off if we're going to be surrounded by, you know, electromagnetic frequencies and the day-to-day busyness. And yeah, we do need to unplug sometimes to really listen deeper, right? That makes so much
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess doing it in an intentional, sacred, you know, special present way, you know, because we can unplug and just go to a resort and listen to music at the beach. And, you know, that's beautiful too. You know, I love those holidays too, but there is something different when we're actually taking a sacred journey where, you know, people around all cultures, thousands of years, have gone on pilgrimages for that very reason, you know. And so, yeah, I just find that that's what keeps my soul alive and keeps stoking, you know, my flame and transforming more for me, you know, and gives me so much energy when I come back from my own retreats. Like, I'm so transformed, I have so much energy that most of the time I just end up manifesting ridiculous things. Like the last retreat I got back from, I wasn't working. Like, I was taking a lot of time off after Bali, and I had a 300K, you know, a month and a half or something it was, because of just how magnetic I was from the place. When I was in Egypt, I don't know if you heard me say, but, you know, I wasn't even letting anyone know that I'd opened up my program. I was just energetically tuning in, and people were messaging me when I was over there saying, like, I want to work with you. I want to start this program with you. And I'm like, well, I haven't even said, you know, how do you know? And then I got back, and normally it takes 2 months to launch it. In 1 week, I filled it, you know, from the potency of how I felt from Egypt, you know. And I literally just went to temples and sat in ritual, and I didn't do any, I wasn't posting, I wasn't doing anything, you know.
Yeah.
This is the feminine power. Like, when we're in alignment and we're working with that energy, like, I still take action, but there's not much I need to do, you know, when I'm in that state. Whereas if I'm not in that state and then I try and take all this action, doesn't matter how much I do, it doesn't work, you know, like,
Yeah. I
so,
do.
yeah.
It's almost counterproductive sometimes. The more we try and control and force, it pushes it further away from us. And if we just drop back and allow, then it's like all these other moving parts can co-create. So it's not all up to us. It's our ego thinks that we need to control everything as well, right?
Well, two things when we're trying to control and we're attached to an outcome. One, our inner child's like, I don't want you to only, because if we're attached to something, we're basically telling ourselves like, I'm not okay unless I get this. I'm not worthy unless I have that, And I was like that for a long time. My business, whatever, like so much of my life, it's like, I'm not worthy and lovable until I have a big business that makes this and that and whatever. And I just kept moving the goalpost of how much it had to earn for me to feel it, right? My inner child's going to sabotage that. It's like, I want to be loved unconditionally. I don't, so it's going to stop every step of the way, which mine did, right? Not just that, the universe doesn't, as a loving parent, loving part, benevolent being, does not want us to get what we're attached to, because that's not loving. My son says to me, Mom, I want this skateboard because then everyone at school's going to think I'm cool and I won't be cool if I don't. It's like, I'm not going to get him a skateboard. Like, I'm going to help see that he's cool and lovable and all the things. And then, if he still desires it, like, yeah, I'll get him a skateboard. But not if he's thinking. So we get annoyed at the universe of giving us this stuff and, but it's like, it's not going to give it. And that was the thing when I broke through with money and other times I've broken through my launches, or the universe only gives it to me once I've actually like let go and gone like, I would love this, but I don't need this, and I accept that it may not happen, and that's okay, and I'm still okay, and then the moment I get to that point of like the surrender, even though I've tried to do it a few times, like the moment I actually really surrender, it's like la, like here you go, it's happened so many times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
yeah.
relate to that. That's beautiful. Well said. Yeah. So can we talk about launching? Because yeah, I'm curious what does work well when you're launching, and how do you roll something out? Yeah, are there any key components that work for you?
Yeah, I think that it's a great question. I think that, you really need to work with your body and the way you work and the way your energy operates. For me, I love an ebb and flow of like building up my energy for a launch and then relaxing a bit more back and then going again. I'm not someone who just like wants to constantly have things open all the time. I used to have a model in my business that was more evergreen and just like it was always open, and I was sort of just open all the time and trying to look for clients all the time, and it just didn't work for me. I like to sort of have peaks and troughs, like, and build it up a bit and then just chill out a bit more. And I have got programs still saying that are evergreen and that people can still always join, so that if anyone comes into my space, like there's still options for them. But I have a launch structure where typically the way it is right now, and it changes, depending on what I'm doing. But right now, because I have 3 retreats a year, I sort of launch 3 times a year, really. Um, and yeah, I guess I have like a period that I did deem like a 6-week block or 2 months or whatever it is, like, and that's sort of my launch period. And then that's when I'm sort of focusing more energy on the marketing front. And yeah, and then I'll have the sort of 2 months where I'm more lax, or in more creation generation energy, or maybe I'm doing more on my book or like some other things. And then I'll just sort of do that again. That's how it works for me.
Mm.
And I guess when I launch, like the typical ways that I'll always do an energetic birthing of whatever I'm doing. And so I'll do like a launch ceremony, I call it. And I'm very much on the energy front of like really needing to tune into like, even I've got an Alchemy program that's my 6-month mastermind. And I've launched that now. It's coming up to the 8th time. But every time I do it, it's completely different and it's new energy, and it wants to have new people coming through for a new focus. And so I will still do a ceremony to connect to like, what does the universe want to bring out for this one and what needs to tweak and change. Because if you run something 8 times, you'll start getting bored. I know I'll start getting bored of it unless I keep changing it and bringing more freshness, energy, and what I'm learning and changing, like bringing that into it. So I'll do the launch ceremony to really connect back to the offering, really get my heart behind it, change something that's off now, or check if I'm meant to do it again, like, so that's a part of it. And then I guess I just get the download of like how to, typically I just look at what do I love to do? How do I love to connect to people? And it might change. I used to love masterclass, and then I got a bit over them. So I led challenges, and then I got over that. So I did sort of, this just little 15-minute intuitive readings for people or whatever. It's like, just what am I excited about and how do I want to bring this out? And I'm always connecting back to my excitement, because if I'm not excited about what I'm offering and I'm not excited about how I'm doing it, it doesn't matter what I do. It falls flat and my sales are nothing, until I connect to it. It's like the lights off, the plugs out, until I plug back in. So yeah, I guess that's sort of, and then I just sort of more daily ask God, universe, superconscious, like, how do you want me to show up? Like, what's the nudge? And sometimes I'll be nudged just to do a live on my Facebook group, and then someone will come from that, or I do the Regan interview, or it's like, these little things that come up that are really true. I follow that, or we have an ad that we're going to come, just different one that comes to mind, and people come from those things. It's not always the one set. Oh, masterclasses are it, and so because the universe wants me to create with magic, and it wants me to create miracles. Like, I love that sort of way of manifesting. I don't want to have just this cookie cutter same thing that I know is going to be predictable. Like, I love miracles. So I just really love being guided intuitively, and sort of following threads. And I love when that creates people.
Yep, in flow, total
Yeah.
flow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is so good. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'd say. And I guess, I'm in resistance at times with my launches, and so for instance, like with this retreat coming up, like I started being a bit like, this is too spiritual right now for me. Like, I'm really into my seductress energy at the moment. I'm into my sexual energy at the moment. I was like, ugh, this feels really too light. And I'm just like, ugh, and so I was blocking the launch because I was like, I'm not even that like excited about this. Like, Egypt's got this sort of sexual spiritual energy, but I felt Machu Picchu was a bit bland for me. And until I dealt with that and talked to Machu Picchu and dealt with the energy of that, it was blocked. I wasn't receiving any interest, or interest, but no one was signing up. And then a moment, literally, I had a night and I did this sort of clearing on it and worked out what it was about. The next day, payments came through, people signed up. It's just like, how does it happen all the time? So I'm constantly sort of working on my energy to it.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes so much sense.
Mm,
Beautiful. Yeah.
mm, mm.
Wow. And so with your clients, are they from all around the world?
They are. Yep. Yep. My clients are from all around the world, and they come from really different places. Some person might just see one 3-day challenge from me that's just very brief, and then they'll sign up to my biggest program. And then others will follow me for 2 years, and they've known me for age or few years. Like, it's so random as to where everyone comes and what they end up doing. And that's why I think it's really important for women in business and coaches to have different offerings, like in different layers of working with you, and different things that appeal, because some people love retreats and other people want to do a 6-month mastermind. And it's like some people want in person, some people want online. Like, so having different things that you love but also that can work for different people, I think, is really important.
Wow, that's a very good point. Yeah,
Mm.
because not our ideal client isn't just a version of us. They have different problems and challenges that,
Yeah.
they might need help, like you said, and people learn in different ways,
Well, as
different
we grow and
time.
evolve as well, like, I'm not interested now in group programs anymore. Like, I'm not at that point where, like, that's just, I don't need that. And maybe it might in future or whatever. And there is one area I want to learn in that I'd be open to do a group thing in. But I mostly just need deep one-on-one stuff now, or retreats or whatever, like, whereas back before, like, I did want that. I did want the community. Everyone's at a different point and what they're needing. Um, so yeah, you just sort of got to cater to everyone's different level of where they're
Mm.
at and their lifestyle, what they can, can afford and invest in, and energetically, and all the things. So
Mm.
yeah, I think it's, always great to have the different layers, and it keeps it exciting for you, as well, to have
Yeah.
different things that you're creating.
Yeah. So what's inspiring you right now then, the most? Like when you're talking about getting into your wild woman and your sexual energy, like who are you listening to or following or learning from in that space?
Um, I guess, I mean, my main inspiration, and one that I work with, that I've been inspired for a long time, and it has captured my energy for a long time, is my main mentor is William Whitecloud, and he is the one that I learned like super conscious with. And he always inspires me. And the longer we've been together, like, I've been coaching with him for 4 years now, and it seems the more I do with him, the deeper it goes and the more powerful it is. And that's what I love about the super conscious work and the intuitive work, is that the depth of it just depends on my depth of my soul and how open I am to receive from it. It's like, it gets better and better as I go more, whereas most other things that would get boring, I'd learn it and then it was done. And so that's probably the thing that captures me the most. And there's just no end to my mastery of, so I love that. In terms of, like, I guess, the sexuality, sensuality, feminine embodiment side, because that's probably not as present in that work. And my work is very much about the supercon, but it's very much about the feminine embodiment world and sensuality as well. Because I think as women, like, that's our superpower, our womb, our heart, like, it's our magnetic force. And I think it's very important to tap into to have that sex magic sort of manifesting experience, you know. So I learn a lot. I've learned a lot from Michaela Boehm in that way. She does a lot of sexuality and nonlinear movement work, and like that's one of my favorite modalities to work with. But yeah, Layla Martin as well is someone I'm really inspired by in that space. I also had a coach that I love dearly, Victoria Redbard as well, who's Australian, and she yeah, taught me a lot in that space as well. So yeah, I'm constantly, you know, I mean, there's so many. I've worked with so many different mentors and coaches over the years that I'm really appreciative of, and they've always given me specific medicine for different seasons, you know, and what I've needed when. So I could list off like heaps.
Yeah, well, that's heaps.
That's
Thanks
sort of
for
right now.
sharing. Yeah, I'm totally checking out. I've heard of some of those, but not all of them. So I can't wait to check all those out. Yeah, those lovely souls doing great work in the world and having an impact. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Just
Uh,
like you. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's very
Yeah.
powerful to find your people, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like to call in your tribe, and we don't have to do it alone. It's like, yeah, we were speaking about the ego and that wants us to think we're separate, and it's just not true. And then I feel like lately I've also been like calling in my tribe, but connecting more with my friends and like feeling like sharing like joyful experiences. Like my one of my friends won tickets to see Temper Trap the other night, and I went with her, and it was just like, wow, just listening to music and just go, going for a coffee with my friend. Like it's just the simple things sometimes that if you just feel present with it, it's like, oh, I feel so much gratitude to be able to share this experience with a friend right now, and not take any of that for granted, really.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I, you know, I think, and that's the thing too, our mentors and the medicine can come from life and our friends and my son and like, you know, the messenger of God or like can come through the donkey. It can, you know, it can come all different ways if we're really open to it. But I think, you know, for me, my coaches have been the main source of that. I mean, my guidance and my superconscious, my own spirit guidance for myself has been the main, but then they would be secondary because it's funny, you know, I meet a lot of coaches and women in business who think they're saving money or saving time or by not investing in things. And it's like it's the furthest from the truth. You know, for me to actually why I broke through as I did and escalated as I did, one of the main reasons is because I just put so much of an investment in myself and in my coaches that were aligned, not the ones that weren't, you know, and not the ones that were coming because I was afraid or felt pressured to do it or but when I was an aligned coach for me and an intuitively led person, like it fast tracked my growth like anything else, you know, and I could have tried to do that myself and it would have taken 5 years and cost me way more trying to figure it out. Or I can get the code from that coach, you know, and I think that is one of the keys is to, yeah, where my growth escalated was I always had the mentality of like that in entrepreneur and that thing of like, I need to invest in myself and my business for it to move and grow and pay me eventually. But I knew there was a period where I'll be putting more into it. And I think a lot of people want to have a business and they want to create all this money and like, but they're not willing to actually invest in it and it won't grow, you know, it's just, there's a time for sowing and a time to like give your business all this stuff and to like, you know, receive insight from people and coaches. And then there's a time for more reaping and that where you can just integrate and embody and just sort of go more on your, you know, that's what I believe. And that's what I think's been a real difference for me versus other people I've seen in the space who haven't had the same trajectory, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that. And I also said recently in another interview, also the decision that I always had this decision where it was like, it's not an if I'm going to break through, it's a when. Like it wasn't a, took me 3.5, nearly 4 years to break through the level I wanted in my business after trying really hard. But it was always a, like, when this is going to happen, what else is going to help me to break through? It wasn't a, oh, I'm not sure if this is going to happen, you know?
Mm, mm. And with those, shifts and quantum leaps, right? It's just opening up to a new possibility as well. Like if we believe that it has to take 5 years and it has to be a hard slog and you have to have XYZ in place before the other bits, well, of course we're going to create that. But if we go, hang on, I don't need XYZ, I'll just do blah, 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 and then allow something else to come in. It's like opening our mind all the time, like every day, choosing some new thoughts. Otherwise, most of our thoughts are recycled from the day before. And, I've been thinking of that a lot lately. Like, okay, well, which new thoughts are going to be empowering? Like, have you got any power questions that you ask yourself that really lead you to receiving those answers from your super conscious?
Um, I think typically, you know, one of the big things I do is play games with the universe by just I call it in the, I guess, in the realm of potentiality. Like, just if I'm playing in the realm of potentiality, that all is possible and like there's no limit. Like, what would I love? And like, wouldn't it be nice if that, and then just some bizarre random desire and that audacious thing that I would love to just, ask for. And it's just so amazing that as soon as I tend to do that or ask that, it's like how much it starts to come in alignment. Like, for instance, not long ago, maybe it was a year or so ago, like I just wanted and desired for more team in my business, more people to support me. And that, I just literally desired it for 1 week and asked. And then within, I think, a week or two, I went from 2 in my team to 8, and all these people just came referred to me and whatever. I didn't do anything. I just asked it and imagined and had that desire, and bang, like that doesn't always happen that way. But even this, like, you reached out to me saying, you want, and I've had a lot of people reaching out about podcasts and things lately. And I've just this year deemed it's like my PR year, and I'm going to really build the brand this year. And like, started to just now get my team to start looking at that. But when I just decided that and wanted that, it's like all these people just been reaching out, like, I want to interview you. I want to, it's just like,
Wow.
so I don't know if there's a set question, but I'm like, okay, what do I desire? Okay, universe, like, this is what I'd love. Like, this would be awesome, and as soon as I start saying that or envisioning that or going to that next level, it's always good to have your level of what you want to create that's possible and doable and is predictable, the next level, and then just have that next level of like, this is full miracle level, but let's go there, and that's a really exciting place to play, because that's where you really see magic, come and it's not in your realm of possibility. You can't control it yourself,
Yeah.
that's when the
So
universe loves to step in.
it's funny because I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit different or something, but I feel more comfortable in that kind of miracle fantasy realm than the other practical things. But, we're all in our growth journey, and that's why, yeah, it's great to ask, successful people who have nailed those other components like yourself that I can learn from. I'm like, cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's like we don't know what we don't know. So we don't need to know it all. We can just, tune in and learn and explore and like play. I think you mentioned the word play before. Yes,
Mm,
that is
mm.
such an important energy to have when we want to manifest and create something different, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing as well, though, that you got to, you go, okay, I like to play in this space, and this is comfortable for me to be in the ether and to be in that realm and to be in what I call albedo and like to really dream. And but then the coming, bringing it to practical reality is the stretch for you. It's like
It is.
your medicine comes when you put that piece of the medicine in more so, because um as I said, like the three required, and a lot of women come to me who are very masculine, very in action mode and can do it all, but they're not in the spiritual, dreaming land at all. And as soon as we add that in, literally often the week or the month, like I've had so many clients working with me for the first month, and they've had 100K month or whatever crazy, which they've never done before, because we've just added that magic that they were missing in. And everyone's magic is missing is different. We just got to find what it is and add that ingredient in. Poof, it creates.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes what comes naturally or easily to us, we kind of downplay and go, oh, well, that's just that. And then it's like, but hang on, other people might find that challenging. So it's a gift. It's something I could even bring out more and help people with.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can sometimes have two reactions to it. One time is, yeah, we can downplay it and just, yeah, not really acknowledge it or not use it to, and sometimes we can also resist it. Like, for instance, I was, most of my life, I said I was a battler. Like, I had a warrior energy that was very strong, but it was like I was exhausted by it, depleted by it, because all I had ever done was that archetype of the warrior. And so I was doing work with Michaela Bowman on archetypes and work. And when we got to the warrior, I was like, I don't want to use that. I hate that. I hate that, because I was so burnt out by it. I resisted it, but I was missing a key part of masculine strength because I was resisting it, and I could bring it in a healthy way that didn't have to go to the way I had used it, you know?
Mm.
And so I think sometimes we can downplay it, but sometimes we can actually fully resist our gifts and strengths because we've overdone them, or like we've had a unhealthy experience of them, or, so yeah, there's many ways we can be interacting with those things. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Mm.
Well, how can people come and work with you and find you?
So yeah, I guess like, Miranda Marriott on like the Marriott hotels, like Miranda Marriott on Instagram and on Facebook's a key way. I've got a website, mirandamarriott.com, that they can have a look at. And I guess the main way in which I work right now is yeah, in my 1 year mastermind, which is like the full kit and caboodle pilgrimage with me, which it just, if you really want to be mentored, but every element and every area and to go the depth of the depth with me and one-to-one and all the things, like that's sort of my main way of working with the deepest level. And then I have a 6 month journey, which is still very deep and powerful. It's just more online and in the group format in that way. And again, super conscious soul, so much like the same stuff we learn, but just, in that space. And then I have my retreats. And at the moment, there's 3 around the world a year that I run. I do have like an online sort of small event that I have as well, and like a membership that I'm going to be creating. And so like there's sort of smaller ways to work as well if people aren't at that level. So yeah, that's sort of the ways right now.
Wow. And before you head off, is there anything else front of mind or any key messages or downloads coming through right now that you want to share?
I think the really key one that I want to leave, which I guess I feel I touched on at the beginning, but it's really like if I'm going to say what's the one thing that had made all the difference to me and still does to this day, like make the difference, is really like knowing that true definition of yourself, and really reminding that of you and really putting that energy in of like, you are a powerful, limitless creator, life force, miracle maker, goddess, God, whatever you relate to, magician, like alchemist, that's who you really are. And if you actually just spend 51% of your time and energy, just the slight majority, tuning into that and declaring that and giving that energy and seeing your life in that light and moving with that energy, that's what changed it all for me, and continues to. And it seems simple, but that's the most powerful thing I could leave with people, and it doesn't need to be 100% of the time. You don't need to be high vibe, not having any fears, it just has to be a slight majority. Just has to be slight seesaw, a bit more weight on that side, and bang, your life is different. Magic's there. Yeah, that'd be what I'd say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this and showing up in your full presence and power. And wow, I'm still processing everything you just said, and I can't wait to listen to this back and stay connected with you and work more with you, Miranda. So you're a beautiful soul and you're an action taker and you're just so wonderfully embodied and yum. So thank you for being you and so wonderfully gorgeous inside and out.
Thank you, Hannah. It was beautiful to do this with you. Really, really appreciate it.